Welcome to F360, Indiana Folklore and Folk Life. In this lecture, we're going to talk real quickly about photography documentation. Photographs are an essential part of the fieldwork process. They're both good for illustrations for publications, but also as a research tool for documenting the things that it's amazing that you'll forget about your visit with the person that you're documenting. So I have like 6 different types of images that I like to collect when I'm in the field. First is a portrait. Make sure you get a nice picture of the maker. It can be both just a headshot of them, a nice image that they're actually happy with how they look in it, but also maybe one with the object that they've made. A way for you to make sure you put the two things together. I do a lot of field work, and so sometimes if I've done like 5 or 6 different wood turners, I can't remember which wood turner I actually a certain piece might belong to or something. So having a photograph can make a difference. A context shot. A context shot is a photograph of the establishment of the place. And this can be both the big picture, like what the landscape looks like or in and around the artist where you're working, but also shots of the shop where they work, an interior of their workbench and where they're actually doing their creative work. A quilter's sewing room, for example. Once you get those kind of portrait and establishment shots, the portrait and context shot, I recommend asking the person if they're willing to take you through the entire creative process and see if you can actually photograph the maker involved in the creative process. Some things that's not doable. If someone's building a hand-built guitar, you'd be there for weeks, maybe months, documenting that process, and I've done that. But usually there's some step that you can photograph of somebody working, and it gets a sense of how they approach their work and a sense of the tools that they use in their craft. Which brings us to the next type of photograph, tools. I recommend photographing those tools, those special resources that they use in the making of things. Whether that's a musical instrument for playing music, or whether it is special chisels, knives, sewing machines, potter wheels, all types of jigs and fixtures that people have made and use. And having those pictures are always useful to have that type of inventory. Next, I strongly recommend documenting the raw materials. Many makers have materials on hand that they can use to make, whether it's a quilt maker who's got a sewing room that's just full of scraps left over from earlier projects, or whether it's a woodworker who has stacks of boards in their garage or their barn. These are things that you'll want to document and have a record of. Finally, a photograph of the finished product. I recommend taking an artful image of the completed object if you can. Either it's sitting there by itself or being held by the artist. It is a nice way to kind of show what the completed piece looks like. This can help document the aesthetic values, so you can actually help communicate what is important about that object. But remember, part of the aesthetics is not just how it looks, but how it works in the world. So a photograph of the object in use, a bowl holding an array of things in it, an instrument being played, that type of thing. So those are the 6 types of images that for your project I'd strongly recommend that you try to capture and include with your work if you can. A portrait, an image of the maker, a context shot, which is just maybe their home or their workspace, both inside, outside if appropriate. A creative process, document various steps. And you can ask them when you're doing their interview, maybe they're showing you and you could break that down. The tools, both in use as well as maybe on the bench. The raw materials that they have on hand, as well as an artful image of their finished product or the object or thing in use. Good luck with your field work.